this computer. Exciting. All right. Um,
Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Mike. Yeah. Yeah. So my name is Andrew. Andrew Shankman. I often go by Hypergame Storytime, which is the name of my long-running project. And I don't have a especially detailed intro written out here. I just have the word intro in my little bullet point list. But I'm joined by a friend here on this journey to tell the history, a loose history of the Hypergame Storytime project with my friend Mike Wood. Say hello to the people, Mike.
Hello, people, and I think that's a good point. You mentioned like telling your own history. I think a lot of people are usually like loath to do that. A lot of people historically, like in the era of the great writers and philosophers, would be like primed to tell their own. And I don't know. I think there's a newfound humbleness about. Oh God, who was it who said maybe I think it was Elizabeth Taylor was like it's tempting but bad to write your own autobiography.
Well, I'm
Something like that.
spitting in her face here
Yeah.
of my
My
great
favorite
idol.
modern version of that, though, is the musician Bonnie Prince Billy.
I do, yeah.
His real name is Will Oldham, and I don't know who the publisher is, but there's some series of books. I mean, God, there's a zillion versions of something like this where it's like Lester Bangs on Led Zeppelin, where it's like some writer on a band or some writer on a particular album, and for the book in the series on Bonnie Prince Billy, it's written by Will Oldham. So it's
That's
him
good. That's good alter ego
doing
use. Yes, I
the
should have introduced
not
myself as
autobiography. It's a
Andrew
biography
Shankman
of his
only.
performing self. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Well, yeah, I think probably there's two things going on. One is like a just like overwhelming narcissism that I possess and self-absorption. I guess that's two right there. But then the second thing is I've had such a nice time with Hypergame, and it is, by its nature, has been extremely ephemeral. And as time rolls away from the, I guess, first stage of what Hypergame Storytime was, I've been more tempted to just do a tiny thing to memorialize, the people who came out to it and what that was like and the little community that supported it.
Yeah, and I'm very happy I was able wander in and catch it like what, 7, 8 years ago?
Yeah, it's a while ago
I
now.
saw a show.
Yeah, this is I should mention the other impetus for this is the 10th year anniversary of Hypergame.
Well, happy anniversary. I didn't know that.
Thank
Wow.
you. Yeah.
I honestly and selfishly thought that it only got birthed into existence when I first saw it.
Yeah.
Because I just assume nothing happens
Well,
until
you famously don't have much object permanence, so like until it's
No,
like in
no.
front of you. Well, actually, so we've done a roundabout introduction of what this is and who I am to some degree, but to introduce my friend Mike here, this is off the top of the dome, but I would say that if there is anything truly magical about cities, that it takes stewardship. Like obviously that comes from like community building and all that, but like on the art side of things or the weird side of things, there have to be people engaging and supporting and kind of like worshiping at the altar of like the weird, cool stuff that happens in urban environments. And I know of no person in Toronto more dedicated to that than my impression of Mike. I don't know if you would consider yourself an acolyte to that, or just like attending every, if you're doing something cool in Toronto, Mike will hunt you down and find it, or at least that's my perception of it.
I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, better you saying it than like me tuning.
You would
in.
never make a podcast to memorialize your own efforts.
Not
like I'm
really,
doing to
but
myself.
I mean,
but
like that speaks to very much like speaks to high school me, where I just remember being like, I can't believe, right? I all these things are happening and I didn't know but then when I was a kid, and there's all ages concerts and this and that, and oh, I can't wait till I'm 18 or 19 and can get into this and this, or at least just lie and do it. I just could not wait to like get out and get to things, and I think a part of that was growing up downtown originally near kind of near Cabbagetown, near Gerard and Parliament area. And my parents were both like, OCAD teachers at the time. My dad still teaches there. My mom bounces around to a bunch of different other places here and there. But I don't know, they were just very big on like just the art scene and the gallery scene and other happenings. And so I think that was just part of my DNA of like seeking things out and wanting to just actually I was about to make like a Andy Warhol factory comparison, not comparing myself to him at all, but but just wanting to like find those sort of pockets
Right.
because my parents were the sort who seemed like they were always kind of around or looking for pockets like that. And also, I think bringing me to places as a toddler. I have like really weird memories of being two and being at some sort of like party where I don't know,
Everyone was
people,
dropping their keys into a bowl.
yeah, who knows? And just, sometimes maybe people being all sorts of different kinds of giggly than I normally see them
Right,
or
right.
something like that. And me eventually like passing out on a couch or being like placed on the bed that has people's coats on them too, or who knows what.
Incredible. Well, I'm glad they instilled that in you, and
Mhm.
that you were drawn eventually to me and to my orbit. And we'll talk at the end, but Mike also has an incredible curational streak in a project that called They Might Be Movies, where you do
Mhm.
incredible screenings, and we'll wrap back around to that. But I
Sure. Yeah,
wanted
yeah.
to keep pulling on the mic thread here to get us started, which I figured, I got you, a credible resource and perspective on just these kind of things in general, and with experience in hypergame specific. But if you wouldn't mind, loosely, or whatever degree you remember, talking about how you found hypergame or how you first experienced it, I think that would be a fun way to kick things off.
Absolutely. Well, it was at our friend's place, Electric Perfume. Rest in peace to this amazing venue and space, which our friends Danielle and Kyle ran on the Danforth from like when did that open?
So it also started about 10
2018?
years. So Electric Perfume and Hypergame have the same birthday. So we, not the exact same date, but within a couple
Okay.
months of them starting off. So 2016 was
Hmm.
the founding of that venue as well.
Yeah, and I used to follow a lot of the like Toronto like indie game collectives, like Toronto Games Week, of course, Dames Making Games, and like all sorts of other just happenings and things. The indie game showcases that would happen at places like the Reference Library during TCAF and other times of year. And I guess through like one of those mailing lists when those still existed. I found out about something happening at Electric Perfume, and there was at least two workshops I went to there before I would have seen a hypergame show.
Right.
And one of them was a Doom WAD level making workshop, and I cannot for the life of me remember who was teaching that. It was very accessible and very fun. You just bring your own laptop. Here's all the tools you need. They're very, very quick and easy to mess around with. And I love the space itself. Electric Perfume was no bigger than just like an average store, just like a middle of the block store. And Danielle and Kyle had turned it into this like I guess gallery looking space for like all kinds of events. So I like first only seen it in that workshop context twice, which was almost kind of classroom-esque, like just here's some tables, looking towards an instructor at the front. And I still kind of didn't really know that it was used for more than that. And then I think it might have been one of yours that was the first sort of non-workshop I
Right.
went to there, which would have been the Dream. Was it the
Hyper
Dream
Dream
Italian?
Journal. We did a
Hyper
couple.
Dream Journal. Yeah.
That was fun, and
Uh,
that was one of like the more, I guess, non-standard. This will be
yeah.
such an interesting listening experience for anyone who doesn't have a clear sense of what hypergame is.
I
But
mean, I'm happy to describe it because
yeah,
like
sure.
it was
You know what? I
interesting.
will
I
let
mean,
you
you
go
know what
on.
it was, obviously,
Yeah,
but I just mean
please.
like
The less
me
me talking, the
walking
better.
in. And so and you did that one several times there.
I did it
Is
at
it
least
that's right?
twice. Yeah,
Because
I
I
think
went
maybe
to at
even
least
three
two,
times. Okay,
and
so I think
maybe
it
even
was three
three.
times.
And the first one I went to, I didn't quite know what it was. I think by that point I was just either on Electric Perfume's mailing list or was randomly checking the website. And I think the invite to Hyper Dream Journal is that the title again?
Yeah, yeah, I believe so.
Was written in universe. Is that like, does that ring a
Yes,
bell?
yes, yeah. It often was that it was like,
And it was like captivatingly yet also frustratingly vague,
just what the hell are they talking about?
like perhaps as intended. And so the first time I went with I don't even remember who, one or two random friends, we didn't know what the heck it was.
Right.
And I think I just had a sense of like, okay, is this going to be some sort of performance art involving dream analysis? But in terms of like the technology and how the flow of it was and the layout, I had no idea. And I walked in after it had already started, and so what I'm seeing as I enter was you perched on your I guess rig at the
Spider
back.
web of keyboards and looping pedals and
Yeah, yeah, and the psychoanalysis couch with what actually what
Chris
how many
Bone
people?
was the
Chris?
on mic, yeah,
Okay,
performing the. I forget the name of his character,
yeah.
but he was playing a yeah, the dream scientist. Let me see
Hmm.
if I can find while you're talking. I'm gonna beat myself and see if I can find the actual event page.
For sure. And were you the one also grabbing the images for it, or were you only doing
Okay,
the?
that is a third, and most other than Danielle and Kyle, who ran Electric Perfume, like most consistent collaborator, that was Graham Schmaltz, who did
Mm,
many of the visuals and elaborate, Unity and tabletop simulator sort of constructions that would like make up the visuals of Hypergame. So he was grabbing. He was the one grabbing the images. So I'll let you keep telling the.
yeah, and essentially, people would voluntarily lie down on the dream couch and talk about a dream they had, and then uh, Graham would be bringing up images that represented things they were talking about, and trying to do this on the fly. And I think was it some sort of randomizer software?
He had found for that one. I wonder if it still exists. It's so funny, just the whole nature of the way that images were pulled from the internet has changed so much. Like
Mhm.
it's an interesting thing. The what I consider kind of like more standard hyper games haven't existed internal live in quite some time, but we would use a lot of like collage art or like pulling images from like random Google searches, and to think about the way that that has been polluted by image generation at the moment is kind of
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
But anyway, he had found this. I think it was just a web page that what you could do is just plug in a search for Google Images, and it would automatically turn it into a slideshow. So I think what he was doing was people were talking about their dreams, and he was just typing in keywords from the dream into this like text bar, and then it would
Yes.
like pull up this like free associated completely vetted string of images, like the first 20 Google search image results.
Yeah, like someone talk about some ray of light, like from heaven, and then the first maybe he put in ray, and then there's like a sunbeam, some sort of ray of light, and then there'd be Ray
A guy named
Liotta,
Ray.
and
Yeah.
then like there's things like that. Like I think whatever that website was actively trying to do like a wacky
Yeah, maybe there was an
word
element, or maybe it was
association.
just like the failures of the Google search algorithm.
Yeah, yeah. And then Chris would, after a few minutes, like analyze the dream, and or he'd be giving us feedback throughout. I think he'd be like chit chatting with the
Yeah,
person,
he was playing
and
like a
then
blowhard kind of like
yeah, a little bit hoity, a little bit toity.
yeah, garden or like a bargain bin. Uh, what's the big famous psychologist guy?
Dr. Phil?
Oh no,
Oh,
the
not a pop.
older the
Oh, Freud.
Freud. There we go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
he's like, oh, geez,
Same
wow.
thing, really. Honestly.
Yeah, yeah, in some
Um,
ways, but yeah. So he was just putting on that kind of persona as if he was like perfectly, empirically, uh, um, whatever he said was a truthful analysis of people's dreams in terms of like what it
mm,
meant about their lives and whatnot.
yeah, yeah. And then you would turn that dream into a lovely song.
Yeah, that would be the culmination, which is
Yeah.
usually how this goes. So I was just sort of
Like
like
there was kind of
playing.
the processing in a way. Like,
Yeah, we talked about the being that it was like their dreams being. I forget if like the in universe thing was they were being exercised or like produced into something that they. But the idea was
mhm.
that the song at the end of this like weird dream seance we were doing was like being produce like a factory into one of these hyper songs. So yeah.
Mhm.
And you probably were like, what the hell have I done? Where have I come from? Where have I come
It
to?
was great. And I went up once and I can't for the life of me even recall what dream I talked about. I mean,
Right.
you might have records of that if you
I
saved
do
all your
not. I
songs. You do
absolutely
not?
did.
Oh, okay.
There's some recordings of these guys, but I do not have a complete archive, unfortunately. Hence the like desperate, 8 year later podcast recording. What do we remember? Anyone who's ever been to one, let's record an episode.
Put it in the podcast so I
Yeah.
wouldn't have to remember. Indiana.
But yeah, yeah. And you had an okay time, I
I had
suppose.
a great time, enough to come back another time and bring a couple friends. And then I remember a few of those friends then started, keeping Electric Perfume on their radar and going to some other things there. And I never went to one of your hyper game shows
Oh, the
there.
proper ones. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
It just like I was always aware they were happening. It's just, I don't know. I just, there was always something I was more interested in doing. To be,
that's
I'm going to
fair.
be
I mean,
totally
we
honest.
talked about
Any given night in Toronto, there's like 37 things that
we
I could
we talked
potentially
about
like.
you. You're a busy beaver. Having seen one, you gotta in order to perceive the totality of the or a percentage of the totality of weird cool
Mhm.
stuff happening in Toronto. You got to skip a couple hyper games, unfortunately. And
True, true.
I forgive you.
I wish one wouldn't have to, but that's great, Andrew.
You're a warrior, in the cause, and I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Well, I have a question about those then. Like, how many of those did you do? Because that was more of like your regular gig
Yeah, so
at Electric Perfume, right?
yeah, this is a good way into it. So, like, what the
Mhm.
standard unit of a hyper game was, I know we did at least, gosh, like 13. It was probably more like 20 something. We did like every other month, pretty much like clockwork for about 4 years, 4 or 5 years, because it was like 2016 into the very beginning of 2020.
And I
And then,
probably in that period went to upwards of like 30 or 40 different things at Electric Perfume. I just like somehow
yeah,
missed
they had.
every single hyper game.
Well, they did a lot of cool stuff. And okay, so you know what?
Yeah.
Thank you for guiding us into that and like the experience of somebody like stumbling into Hypergame, because I think that was for the people who enjoyed it and stuck around and created the like community that supported it. It was a lot of stories like yours, because the ad copy was so bewildering. They either like had a connection with Electric Perfume or some of the organizations that performed there, did work there, and they encountered this thing that was like intentionally bewildering, and were like, yes, I'm in. I'm locked in, and then kept coming back, which was very
Actually,
sweet.
locked in is key because that's not a venue you can easily like get out of without everyone seeing that you're leaving.
Yes, yes.
Like it's not like a bar. It's really just this like, very like
Yeah,
small but
room,
clear and clean
hallway. Yeah.
hallway. Yeah.
So I figure, yeah, let's do a little bit of memorializing of a further memorializing of the physical location of Electric Perfume and what they did there, which summarized a little bit. But they did so. Kyle Duffield, Danielle Hopkins, they made this really cool space, rented out around Pape and Danforth. That was like kitted out with some projectors, and they had like some VR gear, and it was an attempt to have a space to do their digital experiential installations that they would do. Really cool stuff. Like they did like a video game where you're like jumping through lasers to like hit a keypad that was like you were actually jumping through the lasers with like fog machines, and lots of wilder stuff. And they also brought in a really diverse community of sort of like digital artists pushing into meet space, and so everything that like came there, whether it was a workshop or an installation, was this like really cool William Gibson fever dream kind of like nifty, hackery slice of like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. And
Yeah, a lot of stuff with wearable tech or just like things experimenting with like the physicality of something and how that translates into play space and digital things. It was very, very interesting. Like just hodgepodge of people they knew involved in, a wide variety of like either like the hardware or software side.
yeah. And so Hypergame was only one of, many things that had like a returning presence there. But how I got involved in the first place, because I am not a computer wizard or would not describe myself that way, was just from knowing Danielle and Kyle and, knowing that they were making the space and wanting badly to do an event that fit there. And I'd played in bands like around Toronto for many years at that point and was kind of tired, not of playing music with my friends, but of the like, getting on bills and playing to a bunch of, you've brought out a bunch of your friends intermingled with the friends of the bar, the other bands that have come out, and they sit and it's too loud and you don't really get to spend time with them. And, they listen to the same songs that you've been playing for a while. And while I had a great time and loved all the people I played with, was kind of tired with that version of going out and performing in the city. And the bands that I would for different reasons had broken up. And I had gotten really into looping music. I had seen Reggie Watts and like Andrew Bird, like different musicians do
Oh
looping
yeah, I love
pedals, and was like, I must give me that. So I had already done a couple shows of just sort of like improv, Reggie Watts light improv, like, okay, I don't have anything prepared. I'll just come up and like, you tell me what to make a song about and I'll do it. So I
That's
was like,
amazing to hear you make the Reggie Watts comparison now. 'Cause I'm pretty sure I've never heard you mention Reggie Watts ever, but I've already thought of you in that same context, like for years
yeah,
and years and years.
I
Like I
mean, there
just
can't be.
mentally like compared you to him and a lot of other people, like him doing a similar thing as well.
Yeah, him
Like
with
I'm not saying
the
you're trying to copy Reggie Watts, but I mean that's like
well, there's
an awesome thing
certainly, yeah,
to
certainly
vibe with.
indebted to
Yeah.
his work. I mean, I think that there is a certain, I see it around, and you see like different musicians who manifest that. Some people, without having the talent of like a jazz improvisationalist, find it easier to make things up than to learn songs. Or that's where their brain takes them, or they find, and then like I think naturally that leads you to like a certain kind of silliness or playfulness. And like I would make up stupid songs about people or in that same thing, or like, when I knew how to play 4 guitar chords and I didn't have any looping pedals, I was doing that anyway. So like a bit of a chicken egg, but definitely like seeing Reggie Watts, and also the like comedy of, or the deliriousness of operating the looping pedal and being confused as to like what was happening. Like, I think that there's a lot of that just like immediately stuck in my brain of like, oh, you can do, it's kind of like mic control for like a stand-up comedian or something. Like you can like shut off the off button and be seen doing that in the middle of something and like totally change the vibe, and people have seen you operating the mechanics that create it. Anyway, so that had inspired a certain vein of what I was doing with the looping pedal, and I wanted to make an event for Electric Perfume, but I didn't have anything that I felt like I could make that would fit in the space. So I knew that video games or video game adjacent stuff was part of their bag, and I was like, okay, it will be a game. We'll just make it a game. We'll all use our imaginations together. And I've always been kind of from afar an appreciator. I'm really interested in tabletop RPGs. I think at the time I was like, it was pretty limited in scope in my brain to something like Dungeons and Dragons, but I never actually played it. As a kid, my perception of that stuff was like an older kid, a older brother of a friend was like, this is with Dungeons and Dragons. You say what you're going to do, and then I tell you what happens next. Like no dice, no system, like just like pure storytelling. And having that downloaded in my brain, I then like tortured other children for like a couple years to be like, this is how you play Dungeons and Dragons. Now I am the storyteller,
Better metaphorically than how I do it.
which is with the
Oh, torturing children.
oh, sure, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, everyone has flaws.
yeah.
And anyhow, so those things kind of combined in the sense that I was like, okay, sure, well, people will show up. I'll do this improvising music thing, and it'll also be this like really, non very amorphous version of what I thought of at the time as like Dungeons and Dragons, and I was like, I
Hmm.
think I tried to tell two stories in like the first one, which is like, it'll be one fantasy one and one like science fiction one. And I think I had like even like a talking stick that went around so that like everyone got to make like the next decision. And,
Hmm.
it had something, it was both like, so unthought through that, I think that people enjoyed the struggle on my part to kind of like try and make it worthy of them having come there with like no razzle dazzle or like just through sheer force of like there'll be songs, I'll burst into songs, I'm making music the whole time and
I
I'm
also
trying to.
think people are more forgiving than any performer thinks of like weird snafus and technical hurdles. And I think when there is like a sort of a thing that's happening that's not just a stonewall, but like, okay, hey, whoa, let's just work through this together. I've always thought that's a good thing because it helps the audience then feel even more like they're a part of it. Like we are all building this together, kind
Yeah,
of.
I think that was core to many people's enjoyment of the shows, especially because I always was making it like was more ambitious, but the product was also always so like intentionally, but always so stupid that there was like I was just always setting myself up to be like sweating as like the loop has gone wrong or my voice has caught it and I'm trying to tell the story that like if they're for the pleasures that people got out of it, I think like a huge part, if not the majority of it, was like struggling with the like complicated like nonsense that I had set up for myself and for all of us.
Hmm.
But yeah. I mean, this is a lot. We've gone far afield. But what was the standard unit of a hypergame show? They would be what they quickly turned into, in as much as they standardized, was okay. Here is the framework of some kind of genre story. Like, oh, we're doing like a space faring kind of like Star Warsy one, or we're doing a gothic romance one, or this one is like young adult fantasy that was a mashup of like Twilight and Harry Potter called like Teenage Wizard High School Simulator or something, or like some kind of intentionally stupid genre mishmash that I had kind of like conceived of as a story. Then there would be one person on mic embodying the or making the final decisions for this main character through the story. But they would be prompting the audience for what they should do. And then that person would make the decision. So it's like, okay, I'm either explaining the scenario that character has stumbled into, or they, in some of the more regimented, developed ones, it's on screen. Like, you are here, moving through a map or moving through different scenarios, and it's been laid out. And some of them were really elaborate and looked like a produced game. Again, shout out to Graham, who made some like truly insane stuff in Unity for some of them, where he was controlling it with the controller, and it really looked like you were going through a game world. But then, anytime there was a decision or a opportunity to affect the world, the audience was sort of encouraged to just like shout out suggestions. And then the person who was not me on mic, who was kind of the like advocate for the main character of the story, would, I do this or we do this. And then that was success or failure was determined in like a bunch of different ways. Sometimes it was like dice. Sometimes it was, especially in the early ones, it was just like whatever I thought was funny. And towards the end, we settled on something that was really fun that I'd love to return to. Although it didn't work super well on the online ones, which has been a lot of Hypergame in the post-COVID experience are the ones that have resembled this kind of like standard hypergame, which was we used bar trivia style things for success or failure for like a character trying something instead of dice rolling. So, if it was they were doing something that seemed to be deemed like impossibly hard in the fiction, then it's like, okay, that's we dig into the really hard questions that would be like relatively thematically relevant. Like we did a Nicolas Cage simulator about a day in the life of Nicolas Cage. So they would be like in, the hardest, most obscure Nick Cage questions I could think of. And if it was like a simple thing, then they would just have to answer, a simple question, and then they would achieve success. And Nick Cage, the character, would, pick up a glass of water without it dropping or something. And that was enough scaffolding to tell some really involved stories that still had the like complete could go anywhere chaos of audiences trying to hijack any attempt. It's funny because like the stories were all so stupid that it's like I think for whatever reason I was always like would walk into a hypergame being like, but I'm going to tell a serious story about like life and love, or like take the fiction,
But that's more user friendly though, I think. Like if a story is ridiculous, I mean, you're giving carte blanche to people to be ridiculous. And I guess like I don't know, no one wants to go to the improv comedy night that's all, here's what's the framework? Well, it's Atlas Shrugged.
Yeah, where it's like, these three
like,
French clowns are gonna,
yeah,
make you
yeah.
think about death, or
Or something like that.
yeah,
So, but I like how you described it. Like it's as like kind of I mean, it's improv, but with like this, technological bent, and you're kind of like, so in a way, it's like it's better than improv comedy because improv comedy
I certainly think so, and would tell that to
is,
anybody who
yeah,
does that art.
I can think of a lot of things in this world better than improv comedy, to be honest, such as everything. But
You
But
heard
in this
that?
way, I think like storytelling, like goes back to like an oral history, like caveman era of like, hey, that's not the way it happened. I think Zub actually did this with a fire stick, or something like that, where it's not necessarily corrections, just like things being additive and whatnot. And I remember you saying once, like you had a ton of like regular converts who were coming to every single one.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and I
There's
think that is like part of the fun of something like that. Like I think we as humans like want that sort of connection, and storytelling and sharing in that is like part of our DNA.
Yeah, it was, and those people who came out, like that's kind of really what I wanted to like memorialize here and have kind of mourned. So Hypergame we maybe alluded to a little bit, but like many things, the arc of what we were doing at Hypergame was like deeply affected by COVID. And it's kind of like the story of a lot of like arts in the city, writ large. Not that things haven't recovered, but Electric Perfume eventually had to shut down, like many venues, either immediately or in the aftermath. And Hypergame, my life changed afterwards. I moved out of the city. I have two wonderful kids, who I will not name or describe their ages, but I like, my ability to do that more regularly has been separate, and I haven't gotten back on the horse of doing these. But I would really love to, because that experience of these people who like didn't really know me, it was a small community, but like they would come out again, and they were like sort of willing to play, and we were building this thing together. And or if I was providing any service, it was like a framework for people to be like creative communally, on a regular basis, was like, it gave me so much juice. It was like, that was what, and was kind of like an antithesis to what I was describing earlier. Those like the experience of performing at these, dive bars or whatever, which I had a blast doing, but like people just standing and watching and not being able to interact. It's like for the people who came out, like we did a thing together. And it feels, I mean, I'm not entirely sure if this is the case, but it feels distinct from, since then or during that period of time. There was like the rise of these like actual play, podcasts. It's like the Dropout Dungeons and Dragons show played like the Hollywood Bowl and like Madison Square Garden, I think last year. And,
Wow.
there are things that are not, like so far removed from Hypergame, or that hyper,
Mhm.
that's charitable, that like Hypergame is maybe a pale shadow of in some ways that are like big cultural moments, but this like small regular space of people who would come and do this silly stuff, with me, around me, with together, that I was able to kind of like stir up and like disorient people with, was something I was really grateful for and wanted to talk a little bit about, in a recorded capacity. So
Yeah, and I think the structure of how you did it, and I should say as well that actually once you started doing the online versions of them during COVID, I watched I think all of those. Like you did a few of them
yeah,
in the
that's
first
another.
year. Yeah.
I'll
So
let you go on.
so I'm
I'll
like
do the
familiar
quick.
now with the format of how those work. So I can like I feel like I can retroactively
They were,
think
yeah,
back
they were like a
to
version.
what those
So
might have been.
the thing that happened was like the last three shows, I think, at Electric Perfume really
Mhm.
felt like, oh, this is the ultimate form of what we were doing, and like
Mhm.
all the different collaborators who were involved in it,
You're
and
the
myself.
shadow of the hedgehog of Hyper. You're the ultimate
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm always saying this. It had really like congealed the way the engine was humming or whatever, and it was like, okay, now we're going to do this forever, and then poof, world shuts down. And then in that space of like not knowing what to do, for a while after starting in lockdown, we did one show, and I'd never streamed online, and like Hypergames were so silly, and like the songs were often so rough that I had actively avoided making recordings of them. I was like, people, if they're there in the room, they'll, be forgiving of what a goofball mess this is, but like, how could I record it? And then, COVID hit, and we did these Twitch shows every 2 weeks for like a run of like 6 shows or something.
Right. When we all thought this would be over and just
Yeah, it was like until when I can get back.
how do
And
I not go crazy for 6 weeks? And then years go by, and yeah.
yeah, so yeah, you had seen those,
Mhm.
and I figured they were worth mentioning. But if you had anything else to talk on the COVID shows, but yeah, they were a kind of like attempting to capture, or like all different versions of like what had worked in the live shows, in like quick succession. As I lost my mind, you know.
Yeah, that was a very interesting that first spring of that. And I don't mean just Hyper, and I won't, try and divert it to other
But please
people.
do. I mean, put it in the context. I mean,
But
there's
I
only so much
remember
we can
being
say
just
about.
wildly impressed with how quickly you and so many other people I knew and friends of friends tried shifting their things to online. Not obviously not everyone did this, but like, you had the first one up, I think within like 2 weeks
Right.
of like the first lockdown. There was a friend of a friend who ran escape rooms that quickly um, did up virtual versions of like the two or three escape
Mm,
rooms that were currently like at the physical location, and was able to run them virtually like being a DM, and like just and other things like that. Like me and other friends started doing like virtual watch parties instead of in-person
right.
screenings and stuff like that, and trying to like cultivate. And yeah, I just was very, very heartened by how quickly people hit the like let's all stay connected.
Yeah. Yeah. Or
Yeah.
like, I will chew through glass to do this with somebody. Like
That's what I
the.
mean. Like you
Yeah.
have this drive to like I don't want to let this, go away. I don't want to let this stagnate. And I remember when I saw the first. I mean, I guess like I said, I'd already seen other shows of yours. Oh my God! Actually, I just totally forgot. A week before lockdown, you
Oh,
and
did you
I
see
did
Night?
the we
Oh,
did that
sorry.
wrestling thing, the Nintendo
Oh no, I
64
wasn't
thing.
at that one. I almost did. You tried to get me involved. Did I? No, you remember like Arian Tong was like on that one, but I was in the
Wait,
I was in
you
the
weren't part
text
of that?
thread. No, no, I was all you had
Oh
reached
yeah,
out, but
you're
it
part of
didn't
that
work out.
message thread that like once a year we still send some messages.
Yeah, happy birthday,
Okay.
Ric Flair or whatever.
So wait,
But
who did the improvised songs for the winners then?
I
Or did you
maybe
do those after the fact
yes, I
and
think it was
not on
after the
site?
fact. After the
That's what it
fact.
was.
There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. Yeah,
But
this was a thing at Electric Perfume. Actually, the final time I went there was it was a Nintendo 64 wrestling tournament with WWF No Mercy, obviously.
of course,
The greatest
as one
wrestling game
does.
ever made.
Oh,
And
it has zero mercy, completely bereft of mercy, which you don't want.
none at all mercy, is
Yeah,
one might say. And it was an interesting mix of like some regulars and some complete walk-ins who just love that game.
it's
And
okay.
everyone had like X amount of time to create a character, name their character, and we had a tiered thing with me and Ms. Tong doing like color commentary and um I think and then maybe it was just one song. I think the grand winner got a
A
customized
song.
song about their character.
That's so good.
I think
Yeah.
that was
I
it.
mean, which is
And
again
that's
like the kind of like wide palette of nonsense. We're representing the like nonsense side of, Electric Perfume. There were also very like
yeah.
thoughtful explorations of like selfhood or whatever, but I appreciated the nonsense they were able to,
Mhm.
bring allow to exist.
Well, I remember that one was like yeah, like a nonsensical idea, but done with like so much gusto. Like they really brought out like, enough microphones and other things and
Yeah, or just the like the
it was
projectors they had set
it
up.
was
But
great.
I don't know. So another good one, a worthy detour. But there were those
Hmm.
six. I think there was six like COVID lockdown online hyper games, and then they sort of fell off for a little bit. And then there was a handful of other ones, but kind of entered into a bit of a hiatus. And then you were actually the one who brought Hypergame back to some, at least in the
Me?
physical sense. Yeah, yeah.
I say that hyper exaggeratedly, like a me, but
Oh
like no,
yeah,
I actually didn't know that.
yeah. Well, you. I appreciate. Part of the reason I thought of you for this was that you,
Okay.
because partly because of that no mercy thread. Like we had started this conversation, and the way I remember it, things are a little foggy here, but I think that you kept poking about the possibility of doing hypergame stuff. I might be misremembering it, but that's how it felt on my
That
end. That
does sound like me. I'm always like, yo, let's
you should
collab.
do it, or would you
Yeah.
consider this? And I mean, I was always interested, but eventually it worked, and we did a handful of collaborations with your, how would you describe, they might be movies, just like a curatorial project, or and
Yeah, I
pitch
mean, I
it,
guess I'm
put it
like,
here a little bit.
yeah. I mean, this is something I guess I was always doing for, I mean, the last like, 20 years of my life with various friends. I was like so often trying to do like thematic film parties, like film and TV, just media content parties, like built around a theme. Like, I don't know, just even going back to like way pre before doing this with like a handle and, other programming. Like just I remember right after Breaking Bad ended, I like, did something like a whole evening of like the Jesse Pinkman shared universe and I took every one of Aaron Paul's roles and we did this like marathon film festival because he's in Ridley Scott's Exodus, that Moses movie, as like some minor character and like just other things showing like all of Jesse Pinkman throughout history and then the last few minutes of Breaking Bad, and then stuff that took place in like the future and various like just I don't know things like that.
The
So
one when I'm describing, like when you
yeah.
come up in conversation, it was Too Fast, Too Furious on the side of a dumpster, or like outside of
Oh, that was no, that
McDonald's.
was in a Midas parking lot. Yeah, that went
Midas part, yes, that's more thematically
wildly
relevant.
viral. Yeah, that was every year during the film festival. I like to do some sort
The
of
counter
TIFF
programming.
counter programming, something that's just you know like awesome, gutter trash entertainment. And I'm not insulting Too Fast, Too Furious. That is one of my favorite car movies of all time, and one of my favorite movies of
That's
the
like
early
John
2000s.
Singleton, right?
The late great John
The late
Singleton,
great
and rest in
R.I.P.
peace, Paul Walker as well. And yeah, so the idea of that was just hey, I'm playing Too Fast, Too Furious off its original DVD off of a PlayStation 2 projected on the side of a Midas in the Midas parking lot, and at this place at this time. And a handful of people showed up. Some just kind of passed by and just wanted to see what it was. But one of them was a reporter from the LA Times who I've befriended since, who just happened to be in town for TIFF and just like I think A, loved that movie and all smart people do, and B, I think it was just hit that like vibe in the middle of the week of TIFF where like people were just looking for something or
Right, they were
anything
losing
else
their
to happen.
minds.
Yeah, yeah. And then she posted about it, and then like so all these just different people who were involved in the movie, including like the two writers and other people were like retweeting it, and the official PlayStation account shared it and this and that. That was pretty fun.
Well, I think it is it popped, but I think it is but one example of the mad genius for your curatorial project. But so you've dragged or lovingly coaxed the Hypergame Storytime project into that, and the majority of the live shows, if not all of them, since 2020 have been They Might Be Movies related. I mean, so we did a series of like what we're calling like hyper rescores where
Yeah, was the Endless Summer the first one?
I think Endless Summer was the first one. So the concept there was just, long history of hyper games over projected visuals. And we just sort of like took the game out and oh no, what was Scanners 2? Because the idea,
Oh, right. We had people vote.
yeah,
Actually,
that one
yes.
was more of a game. I was like, oh, so we did it at eyesore in Toronto.
Yeah, I saw Cinema, one of the last two DVD rental places in Toronto, which also has an event space in the back.
Yeah, and so we grabbed a bunch of random DVDs from eyesore.
And we let the owner Daniel grab. I think
Yes.
he started with 20 or 25, and we whittled it down from voting.
Right, through voting ahead of time, like
Various
online.
rounds. Yeah, yeah,
And
it was
then
really
in person,
wild.
people picked a random movie at from the whittled down list in person, and we put on Scanners 2. And the idea we turn off the score, and I would make whatever we were watching a musical, and then I forget the mechanic for it, but we would just like skip ahead whenever we thought the scene was done to like make it more disorienting.
Yeah.
And in practice, I mean, it was like typical hypergame hubris, where it's like this will make a cohesive experience. And again, I think the joy for most people was like watching me struggle against this pre-recorded, sequel to a David Cronenberg movie I'd never seen.
Like a really talky, boring, made for TV.
Yes, it did not have like wild visuals,
Like it's
but
really not visually interesting. But again, these are like random selection, and I think
it had a
God, I think
danger
there's
to
like
it.
random documentaries in there too. Like I think some of them might have been even more of a snooze. So
Yeah.
you made it work so well, and I love the emergent stories that come from that.
Yes. I love that. I mean, that's
years now.
So it
But there
wasn't
was something about like puppies or like that kept coming back into the fold.
the fugue
and-
state that I went into. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
pulling
yeah.
something.
But
But
what a great time. And again, the voting, like let people like feel like they're, a part of
yeah,
it.
it's like the weakest version of danger, but it is like introduces danger, in a way. Like it's funny. I've done something I did recently. Or last year, I did some performing with like a circus arts, like kind of troupe, like an arts party, and
Is
felt
this at the center of gravity or whatever?
no, it was the Hercynia Arts Collective. They had done this, but it was they just like assembled a bunch of acrobats and clowns and like different and like performance artists.
I just want to add all of those things better than improv
I
comedy.
I knew you were going to say that, and I might as well go on record agreeing it, and that includes Hypergame.
I
But
should agree because it's objectively
it's
true.
yeah, people with sense. But in doing that, I was like, oh, I feel a real a friend of the collective, suggested that a mutual friend put me in touch and suggested I do something with them, and it was such a blast, and I like felt an immediate kinship with that kind of performance that I haven't been around much since I was a kid.
That's
And I was like,
amazing.
oh, there is something there. Again, like to call it danger is silly because especially for people who do like performance that actually has like put their bodies on a line in a way. But it did like drive home that like part of the hypergame thing is like layering on dumb elements, random elements to the point that like almost guarantee a failure point, like an obvious and like impending failure point, and then like struggling through it, both like myself, but also like us at like, we're going to do, we're the only way out is through, like we will find a way through Scanners 2. We can't understand what they're saying, but we will
Yeah.
interpret
I mean, if you
this.
can laugh at a stone wall, like that's, my God, like that, like you are someone who can succeed at anything in life. If like something like that pops up, like wow, Scanners 2 is really boring. I
Yeah.
love it. How do I turn
Uh-oh.
this into
What's the
jokes and
next?
music?
What's the next hour? You know.
And like that's just, I mean, like, I feel like that's one of those many, many infinite things where someone would be like, there's two kinds of people in this world. Those who can make light of Scanners 2 musically and lyrically,
Yeah, yeah.
and those who just like, turn it off and say, hey, let's put on something else.
Yeah,
I don't
who
know.
would simply never improvise a musical on the spot to Scanners too. Yeah, and that kind of like brings us to so there a couple other things. You know, we did an online one. We did like the art of was it art of flight or the
Art of Flight.
art of
Yeah,
flight.
that was
That was cool.
incredible. Like I mean, I was pretty hands off for the main program, but because you were, oh, I know what I did. I did a montage of every single snowboarding video game
Yes, yeah,
set to, I can't remember what, I did a music mix. I can't
it
even
was
remember, I'll
cool.
possibly remember now. I didn't even save it. I was just doing it like on the fly.
Uh,
But that was amazing for me watching you do like your full thing from your studio rather than in a
yeah,
live setting.
with kind of like the comedy taken out of it. That was just
Yeah,
like
like I mean, like a
improvised.
dead serious. I was like, oh my God, my God, this guy can really like I already knew you could really play. But now the air quotes are going up here. This guy can really play.
Yeah. So
Um,
we did that and we
and
did Endless Summer and then
yeah.
a series of things with Toronto Games Week. And that kind of
Mhm.
brings us to the present.
Oh, in Suspiria in the park.
Oh
I
yeah,
forgot about that.
that was unique.
Yeah.
Um,
In that case, I edited out all the conversational scenes because that movie had we wanted to keep it short for you was the key point because we knew it would be cold. This was a week
yes.
or so before Halloween. We were in High Park.
I know just to put a fine point out, we just not to brush past it. It was
Yeah,
Mike
yeah.
set this up with a portable power, like a generator, like a battery pack, powering a projector and some of my gear, and we went out to like a park, and people came out, and we played Surprise on the screen, and I made a score up for it, and yeah, it was cold, but it was
It was
very
very,
cool.
very, very cold. And yeah, I think I edited it down to just an hour of the most colorful, like kind of walking around scenes in the ballet studio and not any of the expositional dialogue.
Yeah, that was cool. And also interesting to like, you know, I've been doing these streams where I couldn't get people's like feedback. You know, that was its own kind of bizarre, but doing it in the like complete dark where it's like, is everybody having a good time? I don't know. I just have to keep going. All these people are stuck here until I'm done. But that was so cool. That I would love to do, you know, it has proved not to be too easy or like the opportunities to do something like that have not come up, but like immediately I was like, this has a real cool juice and energy to do it like
Well, more to
outdoors
come.
somewhere.
I got a lot more ideas this summer for outdoor things.
Yeah. Well, let's talk
We'll
about
probably.
future. I'll start by just saying that, like, you know, as I mentioned up top, this is the 10th anniversary of Hypergame,
Mhm.
and my hope is to bring the like, you know, standard unit Hypergames that we were talking about back in person in Toronto and surrounding areas. I think like have something booked in Hamilton. Nothing that I can plug exactly just yet, but
Oh,
keep
at
it
the
looking.
staircase?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the venue in Hamilton, the
Yeah,
staircase.
exactly. In talks with them, which would be really
Great place.
cool.
I'm not mocking them. It's an amazing venue.
And we're trying to do a bunch of the streaming stuff. Like actually, as we record, I don't know when this will come out, but this coming Thursday, as we record this, I'll be doing Hyperstream. But yeah, so hoping to bring back. We'll see about the success in terms of, you know, that was a moment of time, like that thing that I was discussing about those people who would come back. But I'm definitely putting a college try of like getting back out there and trying to find spaces and homes for Hypergame to, you know, put out the blow the conch shell and assemble, you know, some old and some new people to see if I can bring that into fruition a little bit. But we've
Yeah,
talked
where are
about
the
doing.
digital space have you been looking into like digital galleries, like the equivalents of Electric Perfume?
I mean, the truth is, so the last couple weeks have been a process of like starting to reach out to venues or starting to have conversations with people about what venues I
Okay.
should reach to. It seems like a lot of cool places. I mean, I feel very out of date. You know, I've been not in Toronto now for quite a while, and so
Mm.
many of the places that I had a relationship with or were familiar with have like closed or morphed. You know, it doesn't seem like it's not like there's an absence of stuff like that, but I kind of need to like learn them anew. But it did drive home, you know, what a privilege it was to have a home like Electric Perfume to do so this as a long running, but hopefully I'll be able to capture that, or at least like do honor to it in a bunch of different places, and I'm excited about that for different reasons. But yeah, once again, it was like that was an amazing gift that they gave me to just have that space open when I wanted it for 4 years, close to 5 years.
Yeah, and that's longer than I would expect a lot of like sort of pop-up multi-use venues to last.
Yeah, yeah.
Then or now. And yeah, what a gift it was that we had that for as long as we did.
But we do, again, not much to plug, but hopefully there will be also more. They might be movies, projects. We were talking about doing a rescore for Return to Oz.
Yes,
so keep an
I
eye
was
out
so
for that.
excited when you mentioned that. I love Return to
Balk.
Oz. Love it. Yeah, Fairuza Balk, amazing then and now. I loved the heck out of that movie when it came out more than the original Return to Oz, because Return to Oz just felt like, well, very well 80s year, of course. It was from 86, 87, maybe. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that sounds right.
It just has that 80s weirdness to it. Like things are a little freaky. Um, and I was telling you when you brought it up that was one of my longtime partner and I's first dates was watching Return to Oz in this like crawl space that had been turned into like a sort of hangout nook in at her parents' place. We were
Amazing.
back there. We like and then brought like we like went we, like took well just had it on a laptop and like various like Oz misc and some Christmas lights and turned it into like an Oz date in there.
Oh,
I love that movie. I'm very
that's
excited to do
beautiful.
something with that. I can if you wanted me to edit it down to like a reasonable like album length,
I was there. I mean, I guess we should
probably
have
do
this
that.
conversation on podcast. It was like, oh, maybe if you
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
lopped off the like Kansas bit at the beginning, or not Kansas, wherever she is at the institution, or at the
Well,
beginning
yeah,
of
like
it.
I would definitely start it at the desert personally, and there's a lot of like maybe hanging around in places. Like, and I think there's some random hanging around the castle like before they build the Gump.
Well,
And
we'll talk it
yeah,
through.
we'll
If you
talk
want to find
later.
out what we
Yeah,
do,
we
you
don't need to turn
got
this
to
into
come to
the
Toronto.
Return to Oz
This is what the
edit the
people want.
podcast. You turn this.
But
Oh, here's what you do. You do this as a hyper game of how would you edit Return to
yes,
Oz,
yes.
the
Oh,
hyper
I had
game,
a. I
and
mean,
then
this is, I guess, a place to like put called shots. I've had this idea for a long time of doing a hyper game that was a concert documentary, like, and setting up a couple cameras, like with like to do it as like you are watching the filming of the concert documentary and the concert documentary at the same time. So the cameras would like be up on screen, and we would only use one camera at a time and bring people up and interview them talking head style, like the not like remain not like stop making sense, but like
I'm
talking
picturing
heads.
heavy metal parking lot, but hyper gaming
Yeah, or
parking
like the
lot.
last waltz where I would like bring people
Oh
up
yeah.
and like ask them to like talk about their experience of like the songs that they heard, and
Mhm.
then I would have to then make the song that describes whatever they said that they just experienced. And oh yeah, well when he anyhow, other stuff, things
I
to
think
come.
that sounds very funny. I can picture it.
We have dumb ideas to come. I think I have one last like point to hit, but before I
Please
do,
do.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to let you, it's just kind of a wrapping up thing. So first, I wanted to say thank you again, Mike Wood, for your time and energy, and for putting the city on your back, so to speak, in terms of seeking out and supporting cool weirdo art like mine and so
Oh,
many.
thank you. Yeah, it's not unique to just me. I mean, thank you. I'm too modest to be all like, oh yes,
I'm too modest, too
but
smart.
I just mean that's actually kind of what I hope of everyone. I
Right.
really
It's
like
call to
we
action.
are so lucky to live in this. Like I've heard from so many friends who even thought like, oh, okay, I'll move to Vancouver, I'll move to wherever. There'll be a similar scene there, and I've repeatedly heard friends say, oh God, there's nothing like thing X or Y or Z in Toronto. I wish we had a insert thing here that they
Hypergame. They
meant.
all said hypergame.
Yes, that's exactly where I was going with it. And yeah, it's just yeah, I mean, my message to everyone is like, please don't settle, people. Please just keep supporting the hyper games of the world. Go out to things, like find things that you're excited to like see a second and a seventh and a tenth time and like make your thing. Um, there's so many like indie bands, performers, people out there who, like friends of mine who've been like, yep, a lot of my friends have come to see my show once, and they're probably never coming back again. And that's when people can't necessarily rely on their friends and actually have to, make fans. And
Ugh, disgusting.
as disgusting as a word as fans is, but let's say like,
Make a
community.
community. Yeah, there you
Community
go.
is a better word. And yeah, so I've always wanted to just just not just doing my own events, but in like constantly going to other people's things. Like want people to keep doing the thing that they enjoy doing and know that there's a repeated audience for that.
Hell yeah.
And so
Well,
that's what I'm telling you, and that's what I'm telling everyone else
yeah, you
who
better listen to
creates and
Mike.
does events
Yeah,
in the city.
and follow Mike, and it's like at They Might Be Movies on like Instagram would be the
Only
best place
Instagram,
to.
no X or and never X.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Rest in piss. Twitter.
yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what? That perfectly segues into what I wanted to say, which is I forget at one point it was before 2020. I was still doing the live hypergame shows, and I heard a definition. I don't even know if it's like the Merriam-Webster's definition of like what folk art was, which is a term I had heard but not really understood. And anyway, this particular definition of folk art that I encountered, I forget where, talked about it's like, well, if you are making art for a small group of people or for your community, that is what folk art is by this definition. I was like,
Oh, I
oh,
love that.
yeah, it's like, oh, that
Yeah.
is what hypergame at its best felt like to me, which is like, oh, this was an outlet that was given to me by, specifically by the, good folks running the venue and by the people who chose to come and,
I thought you were going to get more grandiose with that. Like, this is my outlet from God, or
yeah, yeah. This is a Christian
which is
podcast
absolutely
now.
fine. If somebody
Yeah,
wants to
so
think or
if you
believe
feel that way,
I'm not mocking
but
anyone.
just that like, oh, this was a small but incredibly meaningful space for me to where I was, people allowed me to make my small little thing for my quilt or whatever, and it felt really good, and I would like that those opportunities for other people's, and it doesn't need to be kind of like live performance art, but like having been nourished by doing that, it just like give yourself permission to make things for, even if it is just your family and friends, that like that scale, so much thing, and I make for my work art as well, like a write animation and, have been worked in that world, and making your living through art is great as well, but like the space of making art for even just your family, even just your friends, or even just a small community around yourself is like so cool if you can give yourself permission and like not feel weird or bad about it like needing to go big or be of a certain scale for it to be worth doing. So go
Well said. Yeah, that's such a good ethos.
it's the other side of the coin. I think that like if you
Mhm.
can, every time you go see a show of something weird, an angel gets its wings or something like that, and the flip side of that is that like you don't need to be of any level to like make something for someone else, and often that can be incredibly meaning. It gives to them, gives to you. So write a stupid poem or make a dumb thing, and it give whole if I can smack the generative, just make a dumb doodle instead of like getting Chat GPT to make a chicken that's driving a car or something. Grab a Sharpie and do it on a sticky note. But no,
Yeah, I used to draw a lot as a kid, and people my whole life kept saying like, "Man, you were so good as like a kid and teenager. Why'd you stop drawing?" And I had no idea. Like, I'm never able to answer that question.
yeah. Well,
And every time now and then when I pick up and like actually just try sketching, and even if it's something abstract, like my God, like I love it. And like I can feel these like just, synapses
right.
and neurons like firing. So yeah, please. It sounds like, yeah, it sounds like the most like basic ass, positive thing to just say like just do it, just create. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It
But like
doesn't
any
need to make
motivational
money.
poster.
I think that like it's so easy for people to put out art, or we have so many tools to do it, but like if it if you're not doing it as a professional, I mean, some people just don't give that up. It carries through their whole life as a hobby or whatever. But I feel like,
Hmm.
I felt that impulse myself in different ways, but like, that it is invalidated somehow if it's not, generating a profit or in pursuit of like some higher order. But yeah, I would just recommend making something for, the people around you, whether that's a hyper game or perhaps an erotic painting of the cast of Scanners too. Uh, you know,
I think I spiked the audio
yeah,
meter.
good. Wake them up. But okay, so I'll wrap back around. Thank you, Mike. Thank you to everybody. Thanks for all the many collaborators and audience members who I did not name.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Thank
uh,
you to Electric Perfume. Thank you, Daniel and
yeah,
Kyle, for
yeah.
that amazing space for many years. I hope some things like it can surface again.
hmm
I
Yeah,
mean,
we have
maybe
a
they're out
plan.
there. Let Andrew know.
Yeah, please. Yeah. And if you, for whatever reason, without knowing who I am, if you stumbled on this, yeah, invite me out. I'll come. I'll play your venue. But yeah, and we have something planned, hopefully, for later this year to commemorate Electric Perfume's 10th anniversary also. But, more on that later. But thank you. Thanks for checking it out. If you were compelled to listen to this whole chat, I appreciate you. And
I appreciate you, Andrew. I
thank
do.
you. This
Yeah.
is all a long con to get you to say that.
Mhm.
And with that, I will turn off the recording. Bye.
Have a good night.